Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Best Damn Wrestling Podcast, where we will be doing our Dark Side of the Ring series on the Macho Man Randy Savage. Oh yeah, I'm very man. I'm
Oh
ecstatic.
yeah, dig it.
I am. Whoo! Can't wait to talk about it. We'll also be talking about a couple other things in our Best Damn Wrestling News segment. But we're gonna jump right in and just go with it today. I mean, we when do we ever have a format? But we'll do the best we can. Before we get started, we obviously want to thank all our listeners, subscribers. We wouldn't be able to do this without you. We appreciate the support. Continue to listen. There's more stuff coming, and we hope you're enjoying what we're putting out. And if you do, shout at us. If you don't, still shout at us. We might tell you fuck off, but it is
Yeah,
what it
we'll
is.
shout back either way.
Right. But man, let's jump in. Best damn wrestling news. Uh, so much didn't happen over the last 2 weeks. I'm
Mm-mm.
enjoying the hell out of all the wrestling. I am just ingesting. There's something to do every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday,
Right.
Friday now. I mean, one of the things I want to talk about that's very near and dear to my heart right now. NWA Studio Wrestling. We watched it on last Tuesday, and going forward, we're probably gonna do something on that.
Yep, I
How
definitely felt
excited?
the power.
Yeah, exactly. How it was trending on YouTube. Matter of fact, I
And
believe they
Twitter.
said number one.
Yeah, it was like right there in the top five or something. Yeah,
But
definitely.
folks, keep up with us on this. Again, it's every Tuesday at 6:05 on YouTube live stream, and then you can go back and watch it if you miss it. I think they're on to something big here. We're both fans. We sat here and watched that together last week, and we were just enthralled with what we saw. And I it's almost kind of crazy when you think about it, because it's such an old concept, but it's so popular because it's different from everything else you're
Right.
seeing. But I'm excited. I loved it. I love seeing Nick Aldis, Tim Storm, James Storm. Uh, just they have some tremendous talent
Eli Drake was
over there.
great.
Eli Drake was awesome. Camille was better than everybody. Whew.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, Camille. You just love her just cause she's Camille, just cause she's her.
I,
You was drooling
right.
over her the whole damn match.
That's right. That's right. But I enjoyed it. Even the commentary was good with Jim Cornette and all the promos they cut. And I mean, I'm very excited about this. I'm looking forward to watching it this week. And hopefully we'll have something up maybe this coming week for you on this. We'll see what we can do. But I'm excited, about studio wrestling, and more so, I love NWA. Keith, and you know that. I'm not sure if our
Yep.
listeners do. I'm more of an old school wrestling guy. I'm still watching 70s and 80s and early 90s wrestling. So this is kind of cool to see, and it's my hope and wish and dream that maybe everybody will get their head out their ass, and everybody except WWE, AEW, New Japan, Ring of Honor, Impact, everybody can unite under one banner, and we can get NWA back. And that would be
Right.
like a come true for me. I could die happy at that point, but right now I'm liking what I'm seeing. I think you're seeing a resurgence there with them, and
Yeah, they say they're
I
gonna do it every week, every Tuesday.
yeah,
So
yeah, definitely. Um, I'm gonna talk about something that you're very interested in real quick. This past week on SmackDown, Bailey, women's champion,
yeah,
heel. Remember, I don't know if people remember. Some of our
did
listeners
we not call
may
that shit?
remember we talked about. Yes, we did. Exactly. Did we not?
We said it.
Does that speak to our level of wrestling aficionado,
I believe
whatever? Or
so. I believe so because we had. I remember a comment on the post saying, "Oh, why would Bailey turn heel? No, she can't turn heel. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. Ah, shut the fuck up. We know what the fuck we're talking about." And we said it word for word. We was like, if Bailey goes heel, she would have to be like a darker
well,
character.
we've been talking about this too. Maybe not on air, but how we'll text each other because, folks, we talk every day. It's just what we
Yep.
do. We've been doing it for almost 20 years. It's just what we do. But remember we were talking about how much of a badass she was starting to look even before they got to this point.
Right.
And I was like, man, I like what they're doing. She needed something fresh. This is it. You know, I
Right.
love what they're doing. And now the haircut and the tearing down the blow ups. You know, let me ask you something. And maybe if you're a listener and you want to talk, you want to chime in, leave us a comment or hit us up on Twitter. Do you think that maybe she changed her gimmick based off the burial that she got from Cody Rhodes to a degree?
Ooh, that's actually a good question. Because I don't even think she ever made a reference to it.
Right.
You
Well,
know,
they're not going to reference it. She's
right.
not. She can't.
Well, you know how sometimes they'll answer on their social media platforms. I never saw that from
Right.
her. But if I had to answer, I would probably say no. I just think her gimmick got kind of stale. I mean, when Sasha came back as a heel, you know, Sasha's heel turn, I still say is one of the best ones of the year next to AJ's. You know,
Yeah.
Sasha had a great heel turn, and with her lining herself up with Bayley again, you were gonna need a heel turn for Bayley. I mean, even though she kept on saying she was a role model this, role model that, it definitely wasn't gonna work if she didn't switch. And I like the whole look with she cut her hair and dyed it black, you know, and
Well, it was
destroyed.
already black.
No, it was more of like a brownish. She was more of a
Oh,
brunette.
fuck off.
She went jet black for this one. She went like jet black how Kevin Nash went jet black when he came back a few years ago in the Royal Rumble. That kind of jet black.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
It
yeah,
works.
I'm to see how they work. I will tell you, they pissed me off with giving Charlotte the belt for all of a week for her to fucking lose it again.
Yeah, but then again, I got pissed off, but then I thought about, well, you know, she's 10 time. So
Fuck that. I mean,
most
she needs
likely
to
they're
leave
gonna
it
try
young.
to hurry
Becky
up and
Lynch
get
had
16.
the fucking belt for goddamn almost what? I feel like it's gonna start a fabulous Moolah run with her. Like, what the
Oh God.
fuck?
Oh God.
I know,
Oh,
right?
don't say that. Well, and then she's still very young, and she's already at a 10 time. She's already in the 10 time club, and
Well,
being
I
that
was talking about with Becky Lynch as far as the Moolah run because fuck that, she's had the belt since goddamn
WrestleMania.
WrestleMania, which was in April.
Yeah, I don't think they want to
That's
take it off of her yet. She's still white hot.
Okay. I'm, you know, but even still, I like it on Bayley. I like what they're doing. I think they could build something from this. I'm excited about it. Let's go from two things we were happy about to something that I just want to fucking throw up on. Why the fuck is Cain Velasquez and Tyson Fury on my television?
I don't know, but I almost pissed on my own television when I saw it because it pissed me off that much. I hate that shit. That kind of shit just pisses on my nerves. And I know I'm saying the
I think
word
that the
piss a lot,
Tyson
but that's
Fury
just how I
segment,
feel.
I believe that Tyson Fury segment with Braun Strowman Monday night was some of the stupidest shit I've ever seen. The ending of Raw was
Dude,
disgraceful.
oh my God, that was like the worst fucking goddamn brawl I've
Stage
ever
fight that you've
seen.
ever seen. Yeah.
Like, okay, this dude is an undefeated heavyweight champion. Why the fuck is he gonna brawl with Braun Strowman for more than 10 seconds before
Exactly.
a real knot is left on this
Well,
dude's
let's
face?
talk about the nonsense with Braun going to the back to cut a whole promo and then stopping the promo and running back out there. It looks like they just didn't time it. It looks stupid as fuck.
It was dumb. It was like, oh, they're not done. They're having a real straight up brawl.
Then
No.
Braun kept getting out of the ring. Then he getting back in the ring. Then he getting out of the ring. It felt like they missed time. I guess I don't know if they were trying to end the show on a note where he's like they pulled him out. I don't know what the fuck happened, but
Well,
they fucked that all the way up.
it was so fucked up to the point where you can like hear, if you listen closely to it, you can hear the referee standing on the outside when they're all when Devon and the other wrestlers have Tyson in the corner. You hear the referee saying, "Now, Tyson, now." The dude's missing his cues because he's never done this shit before, so it doesn't come off right. And then when he goes to attack Braun, he's going to like tackle him or or just grab him. It was like, what
Yeah,
the
it's
fuck
still
is this?
most stupid bullshit that we complain about constantly. They keep bringing people in that are not familiar with what the fuck goes on, and they putting them. I can't believe Cain Velasquez is getting the title shot. Like, if I'm a actual over talent or one that could be competing for a championship on SmackDown, I want to quit because what's the
Yeah,
point?
absolutely. Because it's
But
so many people down there that you haven't seen them, and the first time their name is being mentioned is due to this damn draft.
yeah, it's ridiculous. But I'm not gonna beat that horse today. That's not what we're here for. Those were our three things to talk about in best damn wrestling news. Let's get to the main event. Dark Side of the Ring. This is our official review of the Dark Side of the Ring episode on A Match Made in Heaven. That's what it's titled, about the Macho Man Randy Savage and Miss Elizabeth. This will probably be I don't know. Will this be our last Dark Side of the Ring episode?
I think we have two more. The Von Erichs and is another one after that.
Oh, Gino Hernandez. Gino Hernandez.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, we got two left, and we'll work those in. But we kind of really wanted to do this one. Again, if you haven't seen Viceland Dark Side of the Ring, please watch it.
Right.
If you're a fan of wrestling, both new and old school, this is something you should check out. It's a lot of wrestling history, a lot of behind the scenes stories, and I've enjoyed it, and I'm excited for season 2, which will be coming out, I believe, at the beginning of next year. They're already filming,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and they'll have more episodes, more stories. Keith, and you knew what some of the stories were. I believe you were saying it was one of them would be about Chris Benoit.
Yeah.
And what were the other ones?
And the other one would be, oh man, I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on this. Oh, the Jimmy Snuka
I'm
murder
excited.
scandal.
I'm excited about those two alone. I'm
Yeah.
sure they're gonna have more stuff, but yeah, those are definitely gonna be must watch. And it's a pretty safe bet to say when they do season 2, we'll probably watch and review, and hopefully you guys enjoy those as much as you enjoy these that we've done. Uh, and they've seemed pretty well received. I mean, we've done Bruiser Brody, the Montreal Screwjob, and Fabulous Moolah. And
Right.
hopefully you guys enjoy our take on Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth. And we look forward to hearing from you. But without further ado, let's jump right in. Basically, this one didn't tell a story like all the other ones did that we've done. When we did Bruiser Brody, it was about his death. When we did Moolah,
Mm-hmm.
it was about, like, basically, her impact on women's wrestling, and the whole uh, basically her treatment of talent. And when we did the screw job, it was just on that event in the lead up. They told basically a overall story about Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth. And one of the things that struck home for me was the thing everybody kept saying was it was art, that it was art imitating real life. You
Yeah, in
know,
some on some occasions, definitely, yeah. Some
man, and
situations,
Macho Man is definitely like one of my top 5 favorite wrestlers of all
definitely one of
time.
the greatest, easily.
Easily. I mean, he did it all. Great promos, tremendous wrestler, but his promo ability, I mean, he had so many iconic moments that you just kind of like, and the voice and the mannerisms and the way he pointed and the hand gestures and
Right.
shit like that. I mean, I could just sit here right now and just the cream of the crop, that interview and the whole thing and we'll get into this in a little bit. His whole interview leading into WrestleMania 5, or his promo on Hogan after he touched Miss Elizabeth on the ass trying to lift her up, and when he put her on his shoulder and shit, like, those are iconic moments. I mean, even before he got to WWE, his time in ICW and his father's promotion on that episode, they talked about how he was already a star, even though he was in
Mm-hmm.
what was considered at the time an outlaw promotion. But he was already a star, you know. And when he married Miss Elizabeth, he ended up in WWE. He brought her in to be his and the same way I feel about Macho Man, I feel the exact same way about Miss Elizabeth. She was so iconic.
Absolutely, because she didn't even have to do a lot to, display her importance. I mean, she was great in front of the camera, and then again, that a lot of that can come from her working in the father's promotion along with Macho Man.
Yeah, she did. She worked
Yeah,
in
because
IC.
she did editing and also did I think backstage interviewing and
Yeah, in
things like that.
production,
So
she helped with that. Yeah.
yeah, so she knew exactly what she was doing in front of the camera. She knew how to sell a story. She knew how to get things over. So I think that definitely played a good part in there. And she was just this wholesome girl next door that everybody could love. Like you couldn't go wrong with Miss Elizabeth. So she had the great appeal. Beautiful.
And, and she was a counter to Macho Man because Macho Man was intense. That's one of
Very.
the things that sticks out in that episode. And if anything I've ever listened to or watched about him, when people talk about him, they was like he was like his brother Lanny Poffo said in that episode. His dial was like most people's intense people's dials are at 10. His was past that and had broken off. He just never. And what I liked about Macho Man Randy Savage was other than him and Ric Flair and maybe Bret Hart, like, and I don't know, maybe to a degree Hulk Hogan, Macho Man was Macho Man in the ring and outside of it. They were like he was a madman regardless of where he was. He
Right.
took
And
his character very serious. Yeah, and she was like totally. She was a counterbalance to that.
right. And I think that comes a lot with when wrestlers have parents who were in the business and had their own promotion. They took their character very seriously because some people said the same thing about Bret Hart. He took, you know, his wrestling business very, very serious. And I think that a lot of that just comes from, you know, being at a mom and pop wrestling promotion and knowing what goes into selling the matches. You know, people have
Right.
to believe you're this person. You know, people have to be able to buy into it because that's what sells the ticket. So I think he really was bought into his character and he knew exactly what he had to do to draw money, and that's exactly what he did better than damn near anyone.
They mostly covered in this episode, like basically his WWF career. Um, man, I mean, they when you look at some of those moments, like I thought it was just genius that because he was so over as a and like they talked about how people hated him more because of the way he treated Miss Elizabeth on camera.
Yeah, yeah,
So did you see the part where he's doing the promo and he tells her shut up and keep polishing the belt
yeah.
or whatnot?
That
Or
was
when
crazy.
he tore the magazine picture of her out. He was like, "There's Miss Elizabeth, the no macho man." He tears it out and crumples it up and throws it
Throws
at
it in
her.
the head. Yeah,
Yeah, and they were like that. People, as much as they hated him, people forgot he was a heel, and by definition, by her being a valet, she should have been too. They loved her, and she drew sympathy because it was like, oh, you could do so much better. I thought it was genius, and you haven't seen anything like that since.
right, right, definitely. And
And
people really, that's how much people loved her because they was like, how could she just stay with this controlling son of a bitch? What the
right,
hell?
and when they go into the Mega Powers thing, here's the one thing that stuck out to me. When they go into the Mega Powers angle, that angle ran for about a year. They knew that that's where they wanted to go because the Mega Powers teamed up with Hogan and Savage. Basically, Savage makes a face turn, and then Mega Powers or whatnot unite, and that was one of the biggest things. And they built them up to be so good. They beat everybody there was to beat because those were their two top guys. And you
Right.
had Miss Elizabeth there, and they basically made those guys out to be superheroes, and you would see them cutting the promos. The one thing I thought was funny was Macho Man is in a like he got to be burning 2,000 calories a promo with all this sweating and shit that he
Yeah,
was doing.
he was
But
sweat every promo. I almost said porno.
yeah, him
Promo.
and Hogan. And it was just like, what the fuck? But like they were literally like superheroes. It was almost like they built them up to be Batman and Superman joined together against everybody else. Nobody stood a chance against the Mega Power. And
Even
then
with that handshake.
exactly.
The
Exactly.
handshake was like the powers are joining together and stuff.
Yeah,
Those
exactly.
promos were some of
They
the
would
best stuff.
pose. I loved it. And then what really kicked it off, they brought them together, and Bruce Pritchard mentions this in the episode to tear them apart. So they knew all along this is where they were going. And you don't
Right.
see slow burn stories like this anymore. And over time, gradually things started to taper off. Whatnot. All of a sudden, when I think it started with Hogan picking up Miss Elizabeth and putting her on his shoulder. That was a big deal because Randy Savage had been the only person that done that to her. He didn't want you touching Miss Elizabeth. He didn't want people like even he would get out of the ring in the middle of a match back then and tell her stand here or move out of the way there or so. For that to happen, that was a big thing, and that kind of started to decline because basically you had a situation where it was like there's this guy that is trying to steal my woman, for lack of better words. What the fuck, or whatever. And they started playing on that. And then, of course, you get to the scene where Miss Elizabeth's on Randy's shoulder. She's about to slip off, and he touches her ass. And that sets him the fuck off. And I wonder, because they talked in that episode about how controlling and stuff he was. Did you ever wonder if that was really a big issue for him? Like, if that really set him off behind the scenes?
Well, I wondered that until I saw this documentary, and then they pretty much confirmed that yeah, he actually was like that behind the scenes. So it was a bit of like realism. That's why it was so believable because a lot of the guys in the back they were like, yeah, he was real protective over her and didn't really let her associate with a lot of people. Didn't really like people to talk to her.
Well, they
You
talked
know,
about how he would lock her in the dressing room
right?
until he came back. Like he controlled almost every aspect of her life.
Yeah, and that's crazy to me. That And then they were like, well, it was just because he loved her so much. And, he was just trying to be protective over her because, some of the guys, they pull different jokes and stuff like that and
Right,
shit
right.
in suitcases. And he just didn't want her to experience a lot of that. But that it was just, he was just real controlling over her. But it was done out of love. That's the way it was brought in this documentary. So I think that's how they were able to play that so well because it was a bit of that off camera too. And they
Right.
were actual friends with Hulk Hogan
Yeah,
and
Hulk
they would
Hogan and
hang
his
out
wife.
and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's like reality was like there.
Did did you ever watch that promo leading into WrestleMania 5?
Oh yeah. When he was the promo he cut against Hulk Hogan, right?
Yeah, when he's sitting there playing the clip and he's like almost in anguish and whatnot, and he's sweating his ass off.
Yeah,
And
you
you
put
look in my
Elizabeth.
eyes and all you see, yeah, like that promo was epic and it felt so real. I actually went back and watched that promo when I watched this episode of Dark Side of the Ring, and I'm like, man, now that I know all of this, like, was that real? Like, did he just cut that from the heart? Because everybody knows that Hogan and Macho Man always had a on and off relationship. Like they were good one minute, they hated each other the next for whatever reason. And I think a lot of that stemmed from shit like this. And we're gonna talk about here in a little bit, what the main issue may or may not have been. But I always wondered, like when I looked at that, was he speaking from the heart with that promo? Because he went in that you don't cut a promo like that and it not mean something. That's
Right.
and some of the best angles sometimes are bred from real life situations. I mean, Lita and Matt Hardy and edge, you know, and but I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to fucking talk about it. Yeah, but I thought that was just great build up. And again, the thing that sticks out to me, this was a year and some change in the making, you know,
It
and
was.
yeah, and as they were going through this, I thought it was interesting how they talked about in the show. Did you notice as that angle was going, as they were breaking up and that angle was going bad, he and Miss Elizabeth were actually starting to kind of their marriage was kind of starting to deteriorate piece by piece. It was
Mm-hmm.
almost like they both were playing out at the same time.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, and they talk about how after all of that's over, uh Miss Elizabeth asks for time away, and that's when they bring in Sherry or whatnot, and he becomes Macho King after the King of the Ring event, and that's when you get into the sticky situation. So basically, in the episode, they discuss how while Macho Man's still wrestling, Miss Elizabeth takes time away, and she goes down to be with
Miami.
Hulk Hogan and his wife. Yeah, in Miami while Hulk Hogan's filming the video. And Hulk Hogan's wife, for lack of better words, or ex-wife, I guess I should say, Linda Bolia, said that while Miss Elizabeth was there on the episode, she said that she met another guy. And, you know, that they talked and this and that. And all of a sudden, you know, Macho Man just shows up because he wasn't hearing from her. She wasn't checking in like she was supposed to. And I
Mm-hmm.
found it interesting how his ex-wife, Hulk Hogan's ex-wife, was saying that Macho Man basically told her, "Sit right there, don't move until we come back, and you better not tell her that I'm down here or whatnot, or you'll hear from me about it." And I always found it interesting because I was like, if Hulk Hogan's standing there and letting this go on, like, you know,
Exactly. Because
that was odd to me.
right, because the whole time she's telling the story, I'm like, okay, well, Hulk isn't there. But then she was like, him and Terry leave. I'm like, wait, what the fuck? Wait, what? You let this
Right. I'm
dude
like,
come in
geez.
and talk to your wife like that because he can't keep tabs on his woman, who's tired of him? It was just crazy.
And then after he finds her, he tells her that she can't hang out with them ever again, and he blamed. And that's what, to me, I think that's what started their relationship to being the way it was. He
Yeah,
thought that Hulk Hogan set that up. He
yeah,
knew,
that they
and that's
helped
why.
her escape him. Yeah.
Right, and then the episode, Jimmy Hart was like, Hogan had no idea, you know. And I'm of the mindset I don't think he did. I
No, he
really
didn't
don't,
have any
you know.
idea.
Yeah, I think this was just a bit of that paranoia. And as the episode goes on, you can see more and more that, like, Macho, it's almost like to a degree, Macho Man felt like, hey, I'm really showing you all the love I have to give, and that's why I'm like this. And he's getting more and more like this, but and it's coming off as more and more control. You know, he's thinking that he's confusing it as love. She's seeing it as you're controlling me, and I just can't take this anymore.
Yeah, she's felt smothered. He was strangling her with his quote unquote love. And she lacked interaction with the outside world. That's why she liked to go hang around Linda Balea and Hulk Hogan because she was like, well, I love their kids. I could go down here and help her with the kids, and then at the same time, I'm getting away from Randy. Oh, cool. I could just focus on me. She started meeting like other people out there and stuff. She just wanted to be free. She wanted some freedom. Not necessarily saying that, she didn't love him or want to be in a relationship with him. She just wanted to be able to do what she wanted to do. And he just wasn't in a spot that he could give that to her. He was too overprotective.
Right. But then some kind of way she ends up coming back, and that's when they do the whole marriage angle, which was one of my favorite angles of all time. The wedding at SummerSlam,
Right.
and fucking Jake the Snake has the snake as a wedding gift, and Sid Vicious comes in and runs it off, and then fucking Macho Man cuts the promo. Thank God for Sid Vicious. You know, like, that's one of that was awesome. You know, the fucking snake and the wedding itself, or whatever the case may be. And I mean, that was just amazing. How interesting did you find that story in the episode about Jake the Snake and that iconic moment where the snake bit Macho?
You know what? I couldn't really blame Macho Man for going up to Jake to make sure the snake was good. to make sure the snake was defanged. I couldn't blame him. I'm like, all right, cool. I would have did the same shit. Personally, I wouldn't even done the fucking stunt. So he has big
I
balls for that.
thought it was hilarious when he was like, so how you feeling? And Jake the Snake Roberts was like, well, right now, Randy, I'm pretty pissed off, but I feel fine. Like, motherfucker, I just have to have a cobra bite me to prove to you that I'm not trying to kill you on national television. And then he says that he gets mad about it. So when he goes out there, dude, I never knew that till I watched this episode. Remember when the snake bites Macho Man, like they couldn't get him off. Well, that's because Jake the Snake Robertson, he talks about this in the episode. He slapped the snake around
To
like
piss
4 or
it
5
off.
times before he fucking let it bite him. And then when Miss Elizabeth came out there running out, what she was really doing, they said Vince was telling him get the goddamn snake off of him. He couldn't pull it off of him.
Right, because the snake was so pissed off, it was latched on, but no fangs to dig into, but it's still latching on with the strong jaws, and then you can see that it's torquing its jaw on Macho Man's
Right.
bicep. You can see like still some of the like, I guess what the venom still coming out and shit, all on Macho Man's arm, and it was just like crazy. And Macho Man's face kind of says like, okay, it's time to get this shit off. What the fuck? I'm still selling, but get this goddamn thing off of me.
Right. And he said he couldn't pull it off. But dude, that was a 14-foot king cobra. Like, you can't
Yeah,
pull
that's a
it off.
lethal son of a bitch.
I
Lethal.
never knew that story until they told it in that episode.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. I didn't know that either. That's one of the great things about Dark Side of the Ring. You learn shit new every episode. So it's
Definitely.
that's actually a good gem. I didn't know that they had like a little bit of heat there to the point where he, you know, kind of stuck the snake on him.
Yeah, I would. That's one of the things about Macho Man. It's so many iconic moments. As we discuss in this episode, look at all the iconic moments we talked about. The Mega Powers uniting, the Mega Powers breaking up, the Miss Elizabeth shoulder thing. I skipped the part where they were having that match before they broke up, and Randy Savage, Macho Man, runs into Miss Elizabeth, and Hogan leaves the match to carry her to the back. And if you ever watch that interview between them, when the match is over, Macho Man and Hulk Hogan are arguing in the training room while Miss Elizabeth sitting there being, looked at and patched
I
up.
remember that.
And so, yeah, and he starts talking to him and telling him, you had your eyes on Liz and this and that. And Hogan looks at Liz and touches her and is like, Liz, tell him he's talking crazy. And he gets pissed off, like, don't you touch her. And he fucking jumps on Hogan. And that was pretty much the end of the Mega Powers. It's so many.
Yeah, I
He's
remember that one.
part of so many iconic moments. The snake, the wedding, the snake at the reception, and the goddamn snake in the ropes or whatnot. I mean, even Miss Elizabeth with the whole when Sherry was beating the fuck out of him, and she comes in and
Yeah,
pulls Sherry off of him, and Elizabeth, I love you. There's so many iconic moments. This guy is one of the best to ever do it, and I think this episode highlights so much of that. Especially in the mid to late 80s, early 90s, he was that guy. To me, and I may get some heat for this. You may even say I'm bullshit. To me, he was bigger than Hogan. I know Hogan got the movies and all of that shit and the action figures. Macho Man was, from a wrestling perspective, he was bigger. He was better.
definitely better. Definitely better on the promos. Actually, somewhat more marketable. It's kind of hard to gauge which one is bigger, mainstream wise, because yeah, Hogan was doing the movies and things like that, but Macho Man, he was just like, he was just up there. I guess it's hard to even think of nowadays who that is for the wrestling
Well,
industry.
I think one of the things that I kind of hate personally as a fan is that when you talk about them, you always assimilate you associate them together. if I'm talking about Hogan, I
Right.
got to think about Macho Man, or vice versa. Even when they were in WCW, they were never really separate because they were in NWO together. You know, even when they
Right.
weren't in NWO, they still were. You know, they were around each other. Like, you always associate them two together. And I think because people can't tell them apart, you can't, unless you a real hardcore fan and you went back and watched some of
Right.
these moments. You if you don't know and you just a casual guy, you think they're one and the same, but they were so far apart in
Yeah, that
ability.
individuality just
Yeah,
comes
yeah,
straight through the
yeah, exactly.
screen. Yeah.
Right. And I think this episode did a little bit of a nice job of kind of showing it. You notice Hulk Hogan's and his wife and people that talked about him. He kind of seemed more laid back and less intense, and he just was, a guy. And then you looked at Macho Man in this episode. When people talked about him, they used words like intense or paranoid or
Yeah.
controlling or aggressive. Yeah, they're two totally different individuals, and that's one of the things I like. The first part of the episode was great, and then you started to get into the sad part. And I think when he left WWF, or now whatever you want to call it, to go to WCW, that's when things were really falling apart. He
Yeah.
ended up, I believe they got divorced right around that time or right before that, because Linda Valea said that Miss Elizabeth called her and told her, hey, she's leaving him. And she said that she went back down to Miami to see the guy that she was seeing while she was there or whatnot for a while.
Yeah.
And he kind of just went on about his life. But I always found it unique how he never stopped caring for her, because they said when he went to WCW, one of the first things he told him was, hey, call Miss Elizabeth, bring her in. Scott Hall said he got her a $250,000 contract to do nothing, and they were divorced.
Right.
But he never stopped caring.
He still took care of her. Still took care of her. And they paired them two together because they wanted to bring the essence back. It's just the thing with, you know, uh, Macho Man going to WCW. It's his in-ring career was sort of in its twilight with WCW. I don't know if they didn't know how to use him or
I
what the
think
fuck.
they didn't know how to use him. I'm gonna call bullshit. I think
Yeah, because the
they didn't
Slim
know how to
Jim
use him.
commercials started to be more impactful and more famous than the actual wrestling part of it. Like as a little kid, I knew Macho Man as the Slim Jim guy more than the wrestler. So for me, WCW was just glad to have the fucking name. And they put him in the NWO, which is one of the worst things you could fucking do. Macho Man was never a guy that you had to put somebody with.
Right.
Macho Man could stand on his own. When they put him in the NWO, it's just
Well,
was like,
remember, don't forget the night that NWO formed, Hogan turned on him at
yeah,
Bash at the Beach. And I
right,
don't know if that did more to damage his credibility there, or whatnot. That what I don't like about his time in WCW, it always felt like they were using him to tell a story. He was always part of something. He never really stood
yeah,
on his own or whatnot, as he did, like he did in WWE or F at the time. Like he's always part of a big story in some shape, form, or fashion. Or some angle. I didn't like that, and I'm like you. When I was a younger kid, that's what I associated him with, was the Slim Jim commercial. I had to get older and really appreciate what I was seeing. I recommend it if you haven't seen it. That match at WrestleMania 3 with Ricky Steamboat, I went back and had to watch it. I'm like, oh Jesus, like this guy's
right,
much more than a goddamn commercial. And
right,
then I started watching other things that he did and how good he was on the mic and his promos and his robes, and even to a degree, him and Mean Gene Okerlund had some chemistry on camera, at least, with how
yeah,
they were. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. And what kind of halfway pissed me off, one of the first things that was said when Eric Bischoff was talking about him first coming into WCW is, oh, like WWF thought he was washed up, but and they wanted to change him, but like he brought $750,000 to WCW a year. Like it seemed like they were using him as a marketing tool. Oh, this is a guy with a
Yeah.
name, and he was much more than that.
Yeah, because it fell right into the category of the outsiders. Outsiders were the hottest thing going. And they were like, well, look, we got Hulk Hogan, we got the outsiders. Oh, well, we're going to add another person, Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth. So it was just strictly for the look. Strictly for the
But
look. That's all it was.
the, when they get to talking about the WCW thing, it broke my heart because at that time, what we discover in the episode is Miss Elizabeth seeing, and I did not know this until this time. Miss Elizabeth was seeing Lex Luger while he was married,
Yeah,
and
I
not
never
only
knew
was he
that.
seeing, I didn't either. I always thought he was not married, and not only that, while she was seeing him, she was staying in a place that he had that was in the same building with him and his wife. And Hulk Hogan's ex-wife is discussing this because she said she would call her and tell her about it, and she would tell her, "Hey, that's not a good idea. That's not good, or whatever." But it was like she was beyond that because she said she was headed over heels for him. And
Yeah,
what's really interesting is Macho Man, to a degree, I think from based on the way the episode was playing on it, he knew. But he just was kind of like, well, that's her life. I still love her, but she has to live her own life.
right. Because this cold motherfucker actually had her living in the same apartment building as him and his wife and his family.
I try not to be so hard on Lex Luger, but when like,
I mean, that was just the way it was around the business. I mean, it still happens today. I mean, see, we got wrestlers
yeah,
who,
it may be the case. I mean, it just. But when you think about Miss Elizabeth, she's class
right,
personified. I
right.
always associated her as like more of a upscale, classy first lady, type of person, as opposed to other valets. I didn't feel that way about China. I didn't feel that way about Sunny. I didn't feel that way about Deborah or whoever you want to pull out of the hat, to try to compare against her. Something like this, I'd have been like, but like they did such a good job for years of portraying her as this southern debutante, and like she's
Right.
classy and quiet, and she wore
But she's
gowns to the
also
ring.
very vulnerable.
Right, but and she wore gowns to the ring. She didn't wear short dresses or a bikini or nothing. You never even saw Miss Elizabeth below the fucking neck. Like,
Yeah, majority of the time, yeah, you wouldn't. They would keep
right.
it
So
squarely on
first
her
off, because
face.
Macho Man, yeah, first off, because Macho Man probably wasn't gonna allow it. Secondly, because that's just the way her character was portrayed.
Right.
And
Amazing
just
facials.
exactly, and just seeing that, I mean, hearing that story on the episode about like what she was going, even that whole thing about the domestic violence complaint that she filed, where she told people she fell down the stairs but she had two black eyes.
Right.
I was fucking pissed. I'm like, this sorry motherfucker. Like, this is Miss Elizabeth we're talking about. But to your point, you don't really know, and they talk about it. It's a common practice to see things like that. But when you kind of buy into a person's persona or how they're built up in this business, especially when you watch as much wrestling as we do,
Mm-hmm.
that's the last thing you expect to hear.
Right. The
So
absolute last.
yeah, I thought that was interesting how they brought a lot of that stuff up in the episode. And Eric Bischoff, and this is one of the few times I kind of agree with him, he didn't even like it. He said that he felt like that Lex Luger at that time in his life was using a person that was vulnerable and just manipulating them. And he got her on drugs and stuff like that. And I'm just like, okay, I can
Right.
kind of see where
Dude
you're
had
going.
he had demons of his own, and he's sitting there kind of dragging her down. It was just all bad, man. It was all bad. It was pretty much doomed from the start. And
And
mm,
I thought it was kind of fucked up how they tried to play on the angle of with him and her, and I don't know if Luger was involved when Eric Bischoff says in the episode, "This is your ex-wife." Like you can't ignore it. You remember the angle they had going on with her?
right, right. I remember
Yeah, I thought
different
it was
angles
fucked up.
they had with Miss Elizabeth. One of my favorite angles was I think they did Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth versus DDP and Kimberly. That was one of the main things they did. But yeah, I remember that one. Yeah.
And she's like, I need help and help me. And, you know, and I'm like, how much of this was actually going on behind the scenes and not just on camera? You know, I'm wondering if they got, and that's one of the things I will say about WCW. It felt like sometimes just to keep the ratings, they did a lot of shit in fucking poor taste. And WWE's done that shit too. Like when they
Absolutely.
broke Warrior Hawk and his drinking problems and that suicide angle they fucking pulled
Yeah.
or what. Yeah, you know, so they've done some shit too, but WCW always seemed to have done it more. Like when they were discussing how broke Ric Flair was at one point, and that was a thing, you know. And I remember watching a documentary or reading a book or somewhere. A lot of times Ric Flair would get pissed off because they were, you know, it was disrespect, but they're using it as an angle, and I feel like it's what they were doing here to a degree, you know,
Right.
or what. And that kind of just really pissed me off, but it. I thought it was fucked up, you know, and eventually they get to the part that of like her overdose and how she eventually dies or whatnot. I believe in 2003 she overdoses while she's with Lex Luger, and they play the in the episode they play the call back and stuff when he called in and was telling
Right.
them that, you know, has, and I'm just like the whole time listening I'm like, you motherfucker, like that's all I kept saying. You know,
Yeah.
like you killed her.
Well, and then it was just a bad move, also because uh, it, from what I heard in the episode, she was popping pills for someone that was like twice or three times her
Four
size.
times her size. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
then she was taking it with alcohol, and that everybody knows that's a fucking no-no. Taking prescription drugs with alcohol, you're kind of dooming yourself right off the bat.
But
You
taking them
don't
in a
stand a
mass quantity
chance.
like that and doing it makes it 10,000 times worse.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
You're
And
tranquilizing yourself.
right. Even hearing that, I was like, man, I can't believe. But you know, one of the things I will say, and I'll give him credit for it. It pissed me off hearing that. But if you haven't had a chance to, there's an interview on YouTube that you can listen to. And Eric Bischoff talks about in this episode that he had with Lex Luger about this particular incident and his relationship with Miss Elizabeth. And Lex Luger, who, if you don't know, has completely changed and is totally different from how he was
Yeah.
uh, after during that time. This particular incident, I believe he says in that interview, changed his life for the better. You know, he became a Christian and things like that. Um, he talks about this and about their relationship, and he was completely honest. He never shied away from it. He owned it, you know. And I looked at him in a different light after that. But even knowing all of that and watching this, is still kind of gay. You had some
Yeah.
resentment because
You
it's
still
Miss
have a
fucking
sore spot.
right, you know. And I'm just like, man, if I'm feeling this way, I can only imagine how Macho Man was feeling. They didn't go into a whole lot of details on that, and I understand. But yeah, I that it's like the second part of that episode when they start talking about their WCW team. It seemed like it was nothing but sadness, you know. And eventually, he stops wrestling. He marries again in 2010, and I think it wasn't that long thereafter Macho Man passes away from a heart attack while he's driving and crashes into a tree and dies.
Yeah.
And I can still remember the day I found out, and it was just like, what? You know, I didn't believe it at first. And I
Yeah. I
started,
was like, wow, really? What the hell?
right, you know, and you like, really? Like, what? Yeah, that dude, I mean, man, I looked at him as like, and I still do. Macho Man is like one of my wrestling heroes. You know, when you talk about my top five wrestlers, I always have the same answers. It's usually Ric Flair, Macho Man, The Rock, uh, 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 God damn it, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and probably The Undertaker. You know, I'm not a Bret Hart fan. I think he's in the top 10, but you know that Shawn Michaels top 10. But I mean, when you ask me about, you know,
People
one
who
of
you
those guys,
enjoy.
yeah, yeah. when you ask me about one of those guys, I'm like, these guys are like somebody I couldn't miss. I couldn't
Right.
miss The Rock. I couldn't miss Stone Cold Steve Austin. I couldn't miss, Macho Man Randy Savage or a promo or something he did. And I think, it was just his voice and how even, and I'm going to be honest with you, from what I seen in the WCW tapes when we were kids, he wasn't as intense as he was during the early part of his career, but it was still something about him that made you gravitate. Maybe it was
Right.
either the way he dressed or his voice or, his mannerisms or whatnot. And just to hear that somebody that I held in high esteem like that died so tragically,
And out of the
it did
blue,
something.
yeah.
Right.
'Cause he's one of those people where you like, well, he's always gonna be around. He's gonna grow old and stuff.
Yeah, he's timeless.
Right,
He's timeless.
exactly. Because it's just he's a huge part of the wrestling industry, even still to this day. His impact is like all over the place. He has still to this day. I've never seen anyone do a better elbow drop than that man.
Kyrie Sane trying, but
It's close. It's close. Velveteen Dream has a nice one. Of course, Shawn Michaels had a good one.
some of the stuff he's done, he's taken from Macho Man.
And Ravishing Rick Rude, like he's a student of the game, which is what keeps these legends alive after they're gone.
Don't forget Jay Lethal's Black Machismo.
Oh yeah.
And his mannerisms and how well he has him down and stuff like that. I mean,
That got the stamp of approval from Macho Man himself.
Right. He's timeless. Even listening to some of the old wrestling stories, about did you ever hear the story on, I think it was on Jim Cornette's podcast with somebody. I don't remember if it was Dutch Mantel or Ron Fuller. I can't remember which old guy it was, but it was during the territory days, and Macho Man had that knife fight in the Waffle House.
Mm-hmm.
And basically what happened was he got into it with a guy that walked in while he was trying to place his order. And the guy told the whole Waffle House, hey, I'm getting married. And Macho Man kind of said, who gives a fuck? And the guy was like, you better give a fuck. And Macho Man was like, what if I don't? And there's this knife fight that if you want to hear it, folks or whatnot, go to YouTube, and I believe you could type in Macho Man Waffle House. And it's about an 8-minute story, and it's hilarious because the guy pulls a knife out, and Macho Man, from what I understand, jumps over the counter and gets a butter knife. And they have the police dogs and stuff come in. And even after the police are telling him to calm down or they're going to have to loose the dog on him, he's still so turned up and intense. The dog bit him on his ass, and they end up taking him downtown. And I think he spent the night in jail. It's a great fucking story.
I'm gonna have to listen to it. I never listened to that.
It's pretty cool, but it's stuff like that. It's so timeless, and how his ICW days and when he was a young guy, and people, he was a star in an outlaw promotion and shit, but. Yeah, somebody that was, to me, maybe taken a little bit too soon. I always wonder, what that would have been like, and I thought it was tragic. And they bring this up in the episode also. Miss Elizabeth isn't even in the Hall of Fame.
Wow. And I didn't even realize that until Scott Hall said it, and I was like, wait, what? So I went on WWE Network and I looked. I was like, "Oh shit!" So Macho Man's in there, but Miss Elizabeth isn't. But Sunny is in the fucking Hall of Fame, and Miss Elizabeth isn't.
Sunny was a little bit ahead of her time, though. I can't say nothing about that.
She was, but so was Miss Elizabeth too.
Yeah.
So was Miss Elizabeth. I mean, you had Elizabeth and you had Sherry Martel. I think Sherry's in the Hall of Fame, which she absolutely deserves. Absolutely deserves. But Miss Elizabeth also, she just brought so much to it. Because not everyone had to be, involved in the story. No, not everyone had to take a bump. When Elizabeth did have to take a bump, it went well.
That was the first valet I think you really seen. You didn't see a whole lot of that. Like you didn't see that. Right. And what she brought to the persona of Macho Man Randy Savage and how she was able to get the people to react, that's something you can't buy. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, she never took a bump, she never cut a promo, but her persona, they should have been inducted together, in my personal opinion. That would have been appropriate.
It definitely would have, because it's just like, it's kind of how I felt with the whole Heart Foundation thing. Not able to put Owen Hart in there or a British Bulldog. It just kind of sucks. But when things
Right,
like
it's
that happen,
right.
yeah, when they coincide and go hand in hand, it was just like, because in WWE it was always Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth. That was the main
That
thing, Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth.
Yeah,
She was his Robin and he was Batman. It worked. It worked
it worked.
well.
Worked on the promos. It worked in the matches. It worked all over the place. I believe that some of it, people were so interested in him because of her and their story. And, again, art imitating real life. Because at one point, people didn't really know they were married. Remember, they mentioned that in the episode until after that wedding at SummerSlam.
Yeah, they were
And
married
then,
7 years before he proposed
right.
on TV.
And I think that's a tremendous job of kayfabe. I think,
Yeah.
like, to hide a marriage that long from the public eye, it just really speaks to the purity that was in the wrestling business at that time.
And how serious they took it.
Exactly how serious it was. Now you would probably know, hell, we know Becky Lynch and fucking Seth Rollins got engaged because it's posted all over the fucking place.
Right.
So again, you now take them today and WWE trying to basically recreate in a way art imitating life with their relationship. That fucking hurt Seth Rollins, and it could have done some damage to Becky Lynch, but it just took something away from Rollins.
Yeah, it did. It definitely took things away from Rollins. It helped to cool him all the way the fuck down. That was definitely a culprit in that.
Yeah.
Even with this damn dumbass Rusev and Lana shit, they're doing it with that. It's just like, don't nobody really care about that kind of stuff
Right.
anymore.
Well, because it's so public now as opposed to then. Even if you got people on Total Divas and their relationship, Ms. and Mrs. and their relationship,
Absolutely.
like, how am I supposed to believe that Lana and Rusev are, they're happily married but on TV, but then on the show or on an episode of Raw, she's having an affair. It's schizophrenic,
Yeah.
and you can't do that anymore. It doesn't work as well as it should. So now the best thing to do is to be separate. Naomi, and they tried to do an angle with Naomi and Mandy Rose and the Jey Uso thing,
Yeah.
Uso thing. And it didn't go over well. It doesn't work. Now, back then it did, even to the degree that, remember Jake the Snake was talking about in the episode how when he slapped Liz and Randy said when they went to visit her family, Miss Elizabeth's grandfather wouldn't even let Randy enter the house because he said that you promised us you would protect her. They didn't know that it was a work. And the crazy thing is he couldn't tell them. So in order to make peace with them, Jake the Snake Roberts was like, hey, he had to beat the hell out of me on TV to make peace with them and
Right.
show them, hey, I avenged your daughter. Like,
Right.
that was a different time, and you just never gonna get that back. And that just speaks further to how great this episode was and how timeless both of them are. And for compared to now, you can't recreate that.
Right. No, you
I
can't.
mean,
It was a special time.
The closest thing I think you'll get to that is Triple H and Stephanie McMahon, literally.
Oh, during the McMahon Helmsley
Yeah,
regime. Yeah.
literally. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, because that whole thing was executed beautifully, and the duration of it went well. And that's another thing. We always talk about it in damn near the past 2 or 3 episodes where the storytelling back then was way different. The build was slower. Now things are just way more rushed.
Play
You
out
know
to the next pay-per-view. That's
exactly.
pretty much what we're doing. And they don't plan, at least WWE doesn't. And AEW it remains to be seen, it's too new. but they don't plan from end to end. So they don't plan from WrestleMania to WrestleMania. They plan from WrestleMania to whatever the next pay-per-view is, to that next one, to that next one, to SummerSlam, to whatever's between that and Survivor. It's what it's to get you to the prime example. We just got to talking about Tyson Fury and Cain Velasquez. That whole thing's being done for fucking Crown Jewel. So it's forced, it's rushed. You gotta force feed it to people to get them to buy into it. And once Crown Jewel's over, that angle's done. You'll never hear about it again.
Right, absolutely.
So
It just vanishes into thin air.
Right. There's nothing to build off of, and back then it wasn't like that. The only promotion I see now that plans, in the end, New Japan has a plan going into Wrestle Kingdom, coming out of Wrestle Kingdom for the remainder of the year, going into the next Wrestle Kingdom.
Right.
They do long-term booking.
They book a year and a half. I mean, a year in advance. Yeah.
But and I don't know about NWA, but they look like they do a lot of great storytelling, and they seem, more real and true to life. And I don't know if they still keep 2K kayfabe or whatnot, but without going on a tangent, what we're trying to say here is it just really speaks to the level of commitment that not only Macho Man had to this, but also Miss Elizabeth, and not only being a wife behind the scenes, but being a talent and stuff on it, and being able to just get by that for so long, or whatnot.
Yeah.
They were phenomenal. The whole episode was phenomenal. Like I say, when you get to talking about Macho Man, I have to sit down and listen. And like most of the Dark Side of the Ring episodes we're talking about, I've watched it at least 3 times.
Right. Yeah, definitely more than once. Definitely more than once.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's just tremendous. It was one of my absolute favorites. I think out of the ones we've done so far, it's probably my very favorite, and then the other ones followed thereafter because of who it is and what's going on. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I know you did too, because we talked about it a couple times. And hopefully, you guys enjoy us discussing it. And I know we kind of rambled a little bit, but it was so much to cover. And when you got the listening and watching that episode, you start being able to tie other things in. Like when I saw some of the stuff or whatnot, I was like, oh, that's why that happened. Oh,
right,
like snake,
right.
Oh, that makes sense now. And you just, when you get to talking about a larger than life persona like Macho Man Randy Savage, there's no structure. You can't. Whatever comes to mind, you gotta get it out. But I've enjoyed this episode. And Keithan, what else you got, man, before we get out of here?
To the fullest, I've enjoyed this episode. I can't freaking wait for the whole new season. I mean, we're going to keep saying that until it gets here. And we can't wait till the new season. My favorite one was the Montreal Screwjob, though. It's just because I learned so much from that one. That's just why it's my favorite. But I really wish some wrestlers today took it as seriously as Macho Man did.
Definitely.
Because still to this day, people say the greatest match of all time is WrestleMania 3, him and Steamboat. And Macho Man, he doesn't
get what?
The credit for being athletic.
I've seen that match, but I've also seen Barry Windham and Ric Flair go to a 60-minute time limit draw at I believe it was Night of Champions in '85.
Was that a cage match?
No.
Oh, that wasn't the cage match. Okay.
No, it was not. But it was a great fucking match. It's up there. I believe. Please don't quote me on the date in the event, but if you go and look, it was Barry Windham when he was at one point considered one of the best in the world against Ric Flair for the NWA title in a 60-minute time limit, and it went to a draw, and it was a great fucking match. Another one I'm gonna put up there. I think Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock at WrestleMania 17.
That was definitely a classic.
Yeah,
definitely
like
classic.
I love that. I think Shawn Michaels and Undertaker in the career match was a classic. at
Oh
WrestleMania.
man, that's one of the best ones.
Yeah, but I mean, when you get to talking about WrestleMania 3, it's definitely on my list. And it's definitely a top 4. But you gotta watch that Barry Windham Ric Flair match. Back in JCP or whatnot when for the NWA title. That match was fucking awesome. Like it had me on the edge of my seat. Not only that, Ric Flair and Steamboat. When Steamboat won the NWA title from Ric Flair on the and Teddy Long was actually the referee that did the count, if I'm not mistaken. That's a great fucking match.
Let's see
Steamboat can
that.
put on great matches.
That's why NWA is one of the companies that's never gonna go away because the history is so rich. It's not just the title; it's who held the title and the quality of matches they were putting on. And that's why a lot of people are checking for NWA and so invested in it. And that's why we just appreciate some of the legends like Randy Macho Man Savage who really did a lot to build the belt up, you know,
Yep.
where
Yeah,
you got
and it
guys like
really
Ultimate Warrior who didn't really take it as serious,
oh god.
but
It really it really pisses me off though now to hear people be like, NWA is a dead brand or
right,
nobody talks about it. Man, look at all the things and look at all the talent that came out of the NWA tree when you talk about Jim Cornette, one of the greatest managers of all time and one of the greatest talkers of all time, the Midnight Express, the Four Horsemen, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, Ric Flair, probably the greatest wrestler of all time.
right,
Barry Windham, Dusty Rhodes, probably the best booker to ever book any type of wrestling ever, because he did it for years and years and years. And
one of
was
the
at the
greatest
top of his
wrestling minds.
Magnum TA, the Road Warriors. I don't think people realize the Road Warriors were mostly an NWA talent up until maybe
They were
the early '90s. They wrestled almost exclusively between there and New Japan, or
right.
whatever. A lot of those guys, and they had no desire to wrestle in WWF or E until much later. But when they were at their peak, you had all kinds of talent just come out of the Nikita and Ivan Koloff and all kinds
Right.
of talent came out
They
of
were
there.
they
The
were
Rock and Roll Express.
responsible for a lot of successful wrestlers getting to
Paul Heyman
the
was
top.
there.
Paul Heyman was like everywhere though. Paul Heyman was everywhere. I think he touched every promotion except some of the later ones that came in the new millennium.
Yeah, like, I mean, when you get to talking about JCP and Mid Atlantic and like in NWA, it's not. I'm like you. It can never die because look at all the people that came from it. But I think because people don't know wrestling history and don't really pay attention to what
Hmm.
happened to the last 10 years, they don't know unless you just really went back and watched it. And I've talked about it before. I'm a fan of old school wrestling and stuff in the 80s and stuff like that. And that's why I feel like an episode like this, it really made me, you know, I was really excited to see the Dark Side of the Ring do this,
Right.
or whatever, because it's not enough of that. And you saw Dark Side of the Ring do a lot of old wrestling stories and episodes in the first season that people just really didn't know a whole lot. Even Bruiser Brody, I don't think people know a whole lot other than the killing, but
Yeah, I
they
don't
did a
think
good job
anybody
of
ever
discussing.
really stopped to really investigate it, for themselves. I think that was a strong suit. Then you have different revelations with some of these, like we saw in the Montreal Screwjob where Jim Cornette said, "I'm the one who did it." You know, different revelations. It's that's what makes it so successful. And
Right. But for real this time, folks, we're again we would go all night. This is one that just very near and dear to our heart. We hope that you've enjoyed it. We hope you get a kick out of listening to this as much as we got out of bringing it to you. And we got a lot more content coming your way very soon, and some other things in the works that we'll be bringing to you. And again, continue to listen, like and subscribe, spread the word about us on Twitter. That's at
Yep.
jam_podcast. And just continue to follow and help us grow. And we appreciate you. And we look forward to doing this again for you very, very soon. And thank you so much for listening. And this has been another tremendous episode of the Best Damn Wrestling Podcast. We'll catch you next time.